everyone, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time stopping at the Migrant Hub, thank you again for tuning in. And if it's not your second time, if you're one of our faithful subscribers, thank you guys again, and it's such a pleasure to be with you today. So as we conclude with the month of November, which was the theme of self-development, as how we as young professionals can grow internally and how that impacts like our professional lives, I was thinking about doing, let's think of a fun way and just tools, ways in which we can actually improve ourselves. And one of the ways, and I think, guys, just as a caveat, one thing that I really want to mention is I really believe in like being realistic and being impactful in the process of creating this channel and like just putting out content. And this is something that I do, and I really encourage you guys that as you're on your own individual personal development journeys, this is something that I do a lot, and I would encourage you. And I'm just going to review all the books. And for all of you guys, if you know anything about me, or if you're still learning, I'm like a book maniac. I read like all the time. So I'm going to be reviewing and just talking about a couple of the books which I've been reading, which have helped me personally on my journey, and which I continue to be very impactful. So one thing that I do is for example, the first book I'm going to talk about is Think and Grow Rich, and throughout the books I have a lot of I make a lot of notes and stuff. So when I finish a book, I write down all my notes, print them out, and kind of actually paste them around my room, so that in the course of my daily life I can actually see exactly what I learned and how I can actually impact myself. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead with the first book. So with this book, it's Think and Grow Rich. Like you can see, I have been on a self-development journey, more so developing my mind and really being able to really positively impact the words and all the things that I process in my mind. So I started reading this book, and I had mentioned it in one of my other videos, but it's one of the most amazing books I've ever read. It talks a lot about wealth, and remember how in my investing video I talked about get either being rich or being wealthy. So it talks a lot about wealth and how there's so much power in our minds, which I'm sure we all know, but it talks about saying that you really want to be cautious and be careful with what you process in your mind as to how it's going to relate to your wealth, or this one it relates to your financial situation. There are so many other books that actually just impact the decisions you make. So that will take me to my second video. Next one is How Successful People Think. So a lot of the videos are actually so a lot of the books are actually about my thought process. So this one was a very interesting book. It's very practical as well, which is one thing that I always look for in self-development books. It's I need it to be practical for it to be able to impact my life somehow. So I found out that it was very impactful. It just talks about different ways in which you make decisions, and how you can actually impact your life and the decisions, and just your daily living with how you process thoughts. And it talks about how successful people think. If you want to be a successful person, and success, like my video which I uploaded this past week, success means something different for everyone, but I definitely think that it's something that you can take away from it. And I know, and the reason I'm doing this is because I know there's so many people who are trying to get in the habit of reading. This is a very easy read. It only has I would say just a couple of, maybe 100 and let me say 150 pages if I'm even pushing it. A lot of it is just the foreword and beginning word, and it's by John Maxwell. So if you're interested in this, it's a definitely good read. What I'm going to do is I'll leave the links for all these books, which I bought most of them from Amazon. Not sponsored by Amazon. If you want to sponsor me. So guys, never mind. Next book I'm going to review is called Still Like an Artist. So when I started work, I was, if you're in the accounting and auditing profession, that to a certain capacity we are very conservative in our thought process. It's very to the gap, to AICPA, to PCAOB, guidelines and stuff, which is great because that's how we do a lot of our work. But I decided that I kind of want to, because I'm in such a conservative and it's very straightforward, streamlined. I want to learn how to develop my creativity. Like I'm artist, I can create like a creative. So I started reading this book. It's one of the best books I've read, and I've recommended it to a bunch of people who have read it and told me the same thing. It's a very fun book. It has a lot of art and stuff. I have my boarding passes, which I always use as my bookmarks, but it's a fun read. You know, you can see a lot of like fun insights and stuff like that. So I would encourage you to read it if you're someone who you're trying to learn to be a more creative person. If you want to be an entrepreneur, for example, you know, and you're not exactly sure like what you want to do, and like it gives you a lot of pointers and things that he talks about that, you know, could be very helpful to you. And this is just, you know, ways in which I have been able to embark on to be able to improve my journey and improve my life. So the next book is Everybody Talks of Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Everybody raves about this book. So guys, this is Financial Literacy 101. If you want to learn anything, when you're starting your financial journey, this is a book they recommend for everybody. So it's called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's really about, you know, what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and the middle class do not. Very, very informational book. But one thing I do want to encourage you guys, and even with all books in general, is you pick and choose what applies to your life. And when you read this, you'll find out a lot. So I'm part of a book club. Shout out to my book club. And I'm part of a book club. And they were reading this, and we're currently reading this book, you know. And one thing I shared with our group was that you have to kind of pick and choose what applies to you. And a lot of the stuff he talks about, some of the stuff does not necessarily apply to where you're at, where most of us are at in our personal and growth journey career wise. But there's so many helpful tips, guys. This is where I got that thing of, you know, your house may not be an asset, it could be a liability. I learned it from this book. So this is a top read if you're interested. Financial Literacy, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everybody has heard of this book. So next one is How to Win Friends and Influence People, the only book you need to lead you to success. So it's just one of these other books that it kind of elaborates your mind in terms of like, if you want to move forward, how to actually engage in conversation with people. I work in the client service business. I see people, talk to people every day. It was very, very important for me to read something like this because I want to be able to in a position where I can have a conversation with you. One of my biggest goals in life is to be able to have conversations with people because I talk a lot, right? I want to be able to influence you in the right way, in a positive way. You can never change people's mentality, but you can have an impact on how they see life henceforth. So I think this is a very nice, very essential read. Now, this is what I'm reading currently. It's called How You Are a Badass. How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. So the reason I started reading this book was because I was just in the phase of my life where I was doubting myself a lot for whatever reason, you know, like it would just be like the slightest thing. Oh yeah, I can't really do this, I can't really do that. They will succeed at it, but I wouldn't. So I said, you know what, I'm going to start reading this book. Someone had read, my friend she's actually her copy. She was reading it and she told me it's an awesome book. And I was reading her other book. Her name is Jen Sincero. It's the other one is how to be a badass at making money. And she said, no, read this first, then go back to the other one. So that's why I started reading. It's one of those like really, I think it's very, very good. Self-esteem, self-reassurance, self-love, self-happiness. Very essential book, and it's called How to Be a Badass. Now, this is another. Anybody who is big in the financial world would have heard of this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. If in Rich Dad Poor Dad, actually, guys, they reference this book a lot. So this is literally how, and one of my uncles, he actually recommended this book to me even before. So it talks about like, you know, how people in the Babylonian ages, people who lived in the city of Babylon, which was known as the richest town, how they actually developed and, you know, had enough wealth and enough money. His book, the writing and stuff is a little bit hard to read, but they have so many audiobooks available for it, which are probably free, but it teaches you a lot of key concepts about money, financial literacy, and wealth. Very, very good read, very, very essential, and it's one of the most fundamental books as to try to change your thought process to be able to really see how your money can work for you and how to really grow wealth. Now, the next book which I read, and I read this last summer, it's called Getting There. So it's one of the best books I've ever read, only because and her name is Jillian Zoe Siegel. If you're out there, correct me. But this book is about, it says a book of mentors. So she goes through and interviews so many successful people. Like she has like Warren Buffett, she has the guy who started like I think Bacardi, if I'm not even mistaken, so many, the lady who started Spanx, Wendy Knopp, who started Teach for America. So she goes and interviews all these different people. So, and I love it because it's people from different industries, different facets of life, they talk about their success journey, kind of where they started. And many of these people, you will find a lot of common themes in a lot of successful people, which, you know, it also relates to all the other books which I've been reading. And it talks a lot about saying that, you know, and at the end of it at the end of each person's kind of interview, they kind of give you 3 steps to move forward. So it's very essential. You feel like these people are talking to you. So it's a very, very nice and essential book. And last but not the least, actually it probably is the last book, it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So this is a book which was a gift to me by my grand uncle. And you can see he has even signed it in there, but I haven't started reading it. So once I finish You're a Badass, I'm going to start this one. But I believe he said it's very essential. Guys, I'll be sure to review this when I'm done. But it seems like an amazing book. And one thing, I cannot be at a bookstore because I lose so much money. I went the other day to a bookstore. I almost spent $200 just buying books. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to kind of share some of the tools, and one of the biggest tools I know which has really, really helped me to be where I'm at in life now, it's reading. And I just wanted to share a couple of the books which I've been reading. Some of them are not the easiest reads and some of them are, and these are just all financial. I read a lot of fiction, a lot of non-fiction as well, but I think these for the most part are the most essential. I'll probably do another review, you know, if you guys want to. And if you're also looking for other tools in which, you know, you want to develop yourselves, David Ramsey, who is like financial guru type guy, he has a lot of podcasts, he has a lot of YouTube. My sister, I know she's very invested in his stuff. One thing that I do want to encourage is, if you're a minority woman, this may be very essential for you. So I'm working with this lady. She's a financial investor and she owns this company called Wealthy Women Daily. You can check them out at wealthywomendaily.com, and I'll leave the information in the description below. But it's one of the most amazing. She teaches financial literacy and teaches minority women how to invest and how to really, you know, grow yourself, grow your money. I think it's it has been such an amazing journey with her, and I really encourage you guys. All the information is free online, but of course if you want some much more advice, you will have to contact their company personally and everything. But it's an amazing it's an amazing company. They have so much information and just teaching you, you know, how to grow and how to invest, and it's very practical too, which is something that I look for in most companies and in most, you know, everything. I like practicality because I'm a realist. I like to be real about stuff. So yeah, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for everybody who tuned in, and I hope that these books were essential, some of the tools in which I self-developed. Like I said, you know, stick around for the month of December, because like I said, if you are African, we have a wonderful surprise waiting for the month of December. Thank you guys so much, and I really hope you have a wonderful weekend.